Monster Train is one of my favorite roguelites, so when they announced the Last Divinity DLC, I knew that it would be a day one purchase for me. The DLC adds a new clan, a new final boss, and many other new game mechanics, both large and small. I'm going to talk about what I like about these features, what I don't like about them, and whether the DLC is worth buying. Also, this video is a review of just the DLC, not the base game, but I'll link my review of the base game if you're interested in that. So let's get started. First, let's talk about the new clan that was added to the game, the Wurmkin clan. This clan introduces a new shard and infusion mechanic to the game, and that's the mechanic the class primarily focuses on. Basically, you manage a new resource on each floor of the train that can lead to various effects and synergies. Certain cards and units have effects that increase the number of shards for each floor, spend the shards on each floor, or decrease them, or get buffed when shards are added to each floor. Some cards also have hatch effects that transform into better cards, and the DLC also adds a new condition called Reap, where enemies take more damage depending on how many stacks of Reap they have and the number of shards on each floor. As a whole, I enjoyed this new clan with this new shard mechanic, and it feels different than the other clans in the game, in a good way, with this sort of resource management for each floor. The clan has a lot of depth to it, but along with that, I also found it slightly harder to get into than some of the other clans in the game because some of the mechanics were a little confusing to me at first. It wasn't as intuitive to me as the Umbral clan, for example. But because the Wurmkin clan is the newest DLC clan, I didn't really have a problem with it being harder to get into, a little more confusing at first, and once I figured it out, I did really enjoy the clan. But I wouldn't recommend new players start with this clan because it's not as intuitive as the others, at least for me. The Wurmkin clan also introduces some new synergies with previously established game mechanics, such as interactions with consume cards, or cards you can only use once per battle, so shards aren't the only new thing that the Wurmkin clan does. Also, because you always have two clans in your runs with Monster Train, this new clan adds great new synergies with other clans, such as when I ran a spell deck combining the Wurmkin clan and the Stygian clan, which was a lot of fun to use and did pretty well for me. Along with the new clan, the DLC introduces some new game mechanics, and the most prominent are the pack shards, which are a new risk-reward mechanic or currency. Basically, at various points in your run, you'll have the option to take an additional reward, and when you do that, you gain pack shards in return. As you gain more pack shards, the enemies and bosses you face sometimes have various buffs, from simple health or damage increases to other more random or more powerful buffs such as multi-strikes, lifesteal, those kind of things. My favorite new mechanic that comes with these pack shards is the ability to combine units in cool ways. When you get a chance to, you can take the essence of one unit, which is usually a weaker form of whatever its special ability is, such as incant for armor or bonus attack power on hit. You can add that effect to different units to make them more powerful and really just have fun combos. Some are as simple as giving another unit more health or damage, and others have more unique synergies, such as when I upgraded one of my units to gain permanent attack on gorging, the core mechanic of the Umbral clan, and that made that unit very powerful when I reached the final boss. There are also some unique spell modifiers, upgrades as well, that give you pack shard in returns, and these mechanics add even more depth to what, in my opinion, is Monster Train's greatest quality, which is the potential for some insane and super fun combos. One negative side of the pack shard is that the cost of them is a little more opaque and random. Unlike the pre-fight challenges you can select for clear drawbacks and rewards, you don't always know what the cost of the shards are, because it can have so many different random effects or buffs on enemies, and it's hard to tell exactly how it scales with the number of shards. This never frustrated or annoyed me, and it gives you a color-coded symbol to tell how much difficulty you've added to your run so far. But I would say it's a slight departure from the rest of the game's more clear and easily understandable risk-reward mechanics. Another thing the pack shards introduce is the new final boss, and mild spoiler warning here, I'll show a clip of the boss fight, and I'll talk about it, so feel free to skip ahead to the on-screen timestamp or look away if you don't want those spoilers. If you have over 100 pack shards, and you beat the base game boss, you can fight the new DLC boss afterwards. It spawns on all 3 floors at once, so it immediately feels very different. I really enjoyed this final boss as a whole, and I like trying to strategize around it. It took me a couple attempts to beat it for the first time, and I still struggle with it sometimes, but it's a nice new challenge to the game, in addition to the previously established covenant or difficulty levels. I do wish there was a cutscene or text or something after beating the new final boss. It's a little anticlimactic when you do win, but that's a more minor complaint. Along with this new boss, there's a new page of achievements, victories, and card masteries to complete. If you're a completionist or like variety challenges, you can fill up this page or logbook by beating the new DLC boss with every combination of clans and champions, which is analogous obviously to the previous book they had that shows your record of beating the game with whatever clan combinations. Likewise, beating the DLC boss give cards a new form of mastery, which is a nice visual change just for fun. Outside of those bigger changes, there are some smaller changes the DLC adds. For example, the DLC adds a new card for each base clan, and new events for you to find on your runs that introduce new relics, new customizable cards, and add some new lore to the game. I always enjoy when roguelites have lore that reference the roguelite cyclical nature of the game, and that's something the DLC adds as well, which is great. None of these smaller changes individually are that substantial because, by definition, they're smaller changes, but collectively, they really do add more life to the game and make it feel fresh if you played the base game a lot. So what's my verdict on the Last Divinity DLC? I like to think about two verdicts for DLC. Is it necessary, and is it worth buying? I don't think the DLC is necessary, not because it's bad, but because the base game is already amazing and one of my favorites. But I definitely do think the DLC is worth it, despite being one of the more expensive DLCs out there for an indie game. It just adds so many great things to the game, and I would be sad to play the game again without it. The opportunity to combine units and fight the new final boss are just really fun. That said, if you're new to Monster Train, I would recommend trying the base game first, because the DLC has a little bit of a feature overload. Not in the sense that it's too many features, I enjoyed all the features that are there, but it might be confusing for you to pick them all up at once if you're newer to the game, and I found some of the DLC content to have a little bit of a learning curve to it. That said, I've been playing the DLC for over 10 hours already, and I'm excited to keep playing more of it. If you do want to grab it, I'll link it in the description, both a vanilla Steam link and a link for a $10 copy that helps out the channel if you use it, and thanks for watching.